Howdy all, it's Scyfella, or Scyf, or just Scyf, whatever you want to call me, doing something a little different from what I normally do. My first ever review, on something I personally have been pretty hyped for, and been a lot of discussion around, at least in the circles I dwell in. The new Somerset and Dorset 7F, brought to Train Simulator by 4th's Games. Is it any improvement of the original 7F, and how well does it hold up compared to other DLC on the market? Let's dive in and find out. Now, to most people, these engines need no introduction. But to the unfamiliar, here's a little recap of their history. The 7Fs were a class of steam locomotives built for the Somerset and Dorset Joint Railway, whose main line operated between Bath in the north and Bournemouth in the south, as well as operating branch lines to Burnham-on-Sea, Bridgewater, Wells and the like. The class was conceived to replace older 060 type locomotives, which had become increasingly overwhelmed by the heavier freight trains traversing the S&D's main line over the Mendip Hills. 11 7Fs were built over two batches. The first 6, numbering 80 through 85, were rolled out in 1914, construction being undertaken at the Midland Railway's Derby Works. The remaining 5, 86 through 90, would follow in 1925, being ordered from Robert Stephenson and Company by the newly formed London Midland and Scottish Railway, or LMS, the successor to the Midland. These differed from the first batch in that they were fitted with larger boilers, although in later years these would be replaced by the smaller G9AS boilers, the same as those as used on the first batch. In service, the 7Fs proved far superior to the S&D's older motive power, fast starting and free steaming, and capable of handling the heaviest loads single-handedly without the need for double heading, mostly. They were so good that they even found their way onto passenger trains during the busy summer months, including the legendary Pines Express. Despite a few gremlins found, namely the unreliable Derby pattern axle boxes, and poor fuel economy as was noted on trials in the East Midlands, the 7Fs performed adequately and served the S&D very well. The class was gradually withdrawn between 1959 and 1964, but two examples survive today. Number 88 is owned and operated by the Somerset and Dorset Railway Trust, while number 89 was purchased privately by John Morehouse and is cared for by the 13809 Preservation Society. Both engines have bounced around from railway to railway over the years, with number 88, now 53808, presently under overhaul at the Mid-Hants Railway, and 89, now 13809, on lease to the North Norfolk Railway. The 7F has had somewhat of a long history within the realm of Train Simulator, going as far back as the Sim's first incarnation, Rail Simulator, as it was included as one of the Sim's 2 steam engines intended for its recreation of the Somerset and Dorset line. Despite some improvements made to the model over the years by both first and third-party developers, to say it's showing its age would be an understatement. And in this current era of old models receiving much needed upgrades, or senseless rehashes dare I say, it was high time the 7F got the same treatment. And so on the 1st of December 2022, 4th's Games, a relative newcomer to the TS dev scene, announced a brand new 7F model was in development. Only one problem. Yes, Caledonia Works would also announce their own iteration of the 7F in February of 2025, and would be released over a month later, well over 2 years since 4th's announcement, and in a fraction of the time as well. By contrast, 4th's 7F would encounter a number of delays before finally being released on the 26th of September 2025, almost 3 years since it was first announced. But hey, better late than never, of course. So what do you get in the pack? Well, you get the 7Fs, obviously, in both the original small boiler and later large boiler conditions, as per the first and second batches respectively, and both versions come in an array of authentic and fictional liveries. S&DJR X Works Grey, which for some reason is listed as fictional even though it was real, S&DJR Goods Black, Early LMS Black, with the shaded initials and 4-digit numbers, Late LMS Black, with the plain initials and 5-digit numbers, and British Railways Black, with the late ferret and dartboard crest. There are also 4 fictional liveries that the engines never carried in service. Yet in spite of the obvious inauthenticity, this is my favourite part of the whole pack. These fictional liveries include S&DJR Prussian Blue, as worn by the preserved number 88, Midland Railway Crimson Lake, and British Railways Lined Black and Brunswick Green. You also get 2 versions of the Dealey pattern tenders used on the engines. The original condition with the tender cab, and the later version with the cabs removed. Also included are a few variations of the 2 7Fs currently preserved. Number 88, later 53808, in S&DJR Prussian Blue and BR Black respectively, as well as 53809 in the latter livery. Furthermore, 88 has a unique shorter tender body, as was modified during the engine's restoration. Unfortunately, none of the engines featured here come with the right-hand drive versions, as was present on some examples of the class. All the engines included feature only the left-hand drive versions. While this is somewhat authentic, as by the time the first engines were withdrawn, the entire class had all been converted to left-hand drive. But this is not accurate to the earlier depictions of these engines. Furthermore, none of the BR liveries feature the post-nationalisation Gill Sands insignia or the early cycling lion crest. They do, however, feature a few cosmetic details which can be changed in the numbering script, such as optional air brake pipes, extra bracing for the boiler and frames, and the option to switch between the early Ramsbottom and later Ross Pop safety valves and the Darby and Robert Stephenson's builder's plates. Also, the numbers are fully customizable, able to have 2, 3, 4, and 5-digit numbers, regardless of what variant or livery you are using. In essence, you can make your 7Fs as authentic, or as inauthentic and cursed looking as you like. The cab also has a couple of features that, while not unique to the 7F, are interesting all the same. Firstly is the walk-around feature. By holding down Shift and then pressing the W, A, S and D keys, you can move almost anywhere around the cab. Additionally, pressing Q or E will allow you to lean left and right respectively, thereby allowing you to lean out the side of the cab and look ahead. To center yourself again, simply hold down Shift plus Control plus R. While I don't find myself using this feature a great deal, as I especially find leaning either left or right a bit weird and screws a bit with my perception, it is nonetheless an interesting feature. Then there's the animated fireman's shovel, which, as the name suggests, will actually shovel coal into the firebox when firing the engine. While it does look a bit strange with no one holding it, with the shovel just floating in midair and the fireman standing there not doing anything, it is still a very nice attention to detail. There's also a couple of other animated details, such as openable cab windows, the reverser, brake rigging, and the brake ejector. The latter not something you'd always see unless up close, but is another very nice attention to detail. The locos also feature a large array of new and authentic sounds recorded straight from the preserved engines. And when I say large, I mean 4th actually went so far as to record 2 or 3 separate sounds for even the simplest things like the reverser lock. While I personally don't hear much of a difference between certain sounds, I do appreciate the lengths 4th has gone to make the pack sound as close to the real thing as possible. The loco also features fully customizable head codes, with lamps, root discs and headboards. Along with the locomotives, you get a small variety of rolling stock in the pack. These include 2 sets of wagons in both S&D and Midland Railway liveries, encompassing 3 and 5 plank open wagons with coal, stone, barrel and covered loads, as well as standard box and brake vans, the latter of which are different to each other as they're unique to their respective railway companies. You also get a small selection of 4Runners BR Mark I coaches. These include composite, third, brake third and full brake variants. These come in the 5 standard liveries of blue and grey, blood and custard, chocolate and cream, green and maroon. Also included is S15000, the first prototype Mark I coach from 1950, which comes in 4 of the 5 aforementioned liveries. And naturally, with this array of rolling stock, there is also a full selection of quick drive consists available. Now first of all, I have nothing against 4Runners Mark Is. In fact, their coaches are my preference due to the sheer variety of different diagrams, even if they are lacking in the livery department. That said, I feel it would have been much better if S&D and early LMS coaching stock was included instead. Because, for crying out loud, haven't we got enough BR Mark Is? Even if they have upgraded liveries and sounds themselves, their inclusion here just feels lazy. Some LMS and BR era freight wagons also wouldn't go amiss too. That said, I still do appreciate that any rolling stock is included at all. So if you just want to fire up a quick drive with a rake of wagons or coaches, you can. Furthermore, with everything included, a player will have all the necessary ingredients to make a basic scenario. All would be needed, of course, is the route. In terms of driving and simulation, the 7F is a balance between simple and advanced. The engine can be comfortably driven via the F4 HUD or using the keyboard, preference permitting of course. The physics meanwhile are more on the advanced side, featuring advanced steam chest simulation similar to that found on other advanced locos. And that means don't open the regulator too much on starting, otherwise you'll get wheel slip. In terms of driving, you have to leave the ejectors slightly open after releasing the brakes. This is to keep them off, otherwise the lack of vacuum will bring them back on gradually. Also make sure to keep the fire mass at a steady 750 pounds or 75%. And make damn sure to open those godforsaken dampers, otherwise you'll stall very quickly through the loss of boiler pressure, even with the optimal fire mass. In spite of the simulation and driving experience leaning more towards the advanced side, once I got to grip with the engine's quirks, I found them straightforward and easy to drive. When it comes to performance, I'd say 4th's 7Fs live up to their real-life reputation of being powerful and steady engines. On test runs over the original Kuju S&D route, they were able to handle trains of 40 wagons, which, if the maths are correct, equates to somewhere between 500 and 600 tons, the maximum a 7F could haul unassisted, while doing an average of 15 miles per hour uphill. And to make sure it wasn't a fluke, I repeated the same run with the same load, but this time going the opposite direction. On level track, I'm confident they can handle more, but I haven't tested to find that out for myself. In terms of speed, it is possible to get the 7Fs up to 55 to 60 miles per hour, the latter more so going downhill. Again, and as with all locos in TS, it is plausible to make them go faster than what I managed, but again, I haven't tested to find this out. Not that really they should be capable of going any faster than 60, being goods engines with small driving wheels and all that. Overall, however, I am happy to say that these 7Fs are solid performers. My only complaint is that the brakes don't have a lap setting, meaning you have to juggle the brakes if you want to slow down or maintain speed on a downhill section, for example. While they are not too overly complicated, their quirks still present a challenge to master and get the most out of. Once you do, however, they're relatively easy and fun at times to drive, able to tackle any task put to them. Now, for as much I do like this pack, it does have its fair share of issues, with both the modelling, textures, and some of the controls. First, the textures. Now, to be honest, I'm not entirely fussed about this, given the overall finish of the model is comparable to older models by Victory Works, like the Great Western 1400s and Small Prairies, both of which still hold up well in my opinion. That said, I do recognise the overall quality of the textures may not be everybody's liking, as they are admittedly not on the same level as those done by Precision Locomotive Developments, or PLD, and Caledonia Works. Additionally, some of the liveries have been subjected to some scrutiny, mainly the BR Green and S&D Blue liveries, with observations being made that the shades of blue and green used are incorrect. Personally, I don't see anything wrong with either livery, having looked through a few photographs. As far as I'm concerned, the Prussian blue is about as accurate as it can possibly be. Besides, there are multiple factors to consider when comparing, like lighting, time of day, and picture quality. And as for the BR Green livery, well, as you can see, there's more than enough interpretations of the colour to argue which shade is the correct one, so I'm leaving that one well enough alone. If there are any liveries that I take issue with, they are the BR Lined Black livery, where the red trim looks more orange than red, and the Midland Crimson Lake livery, where the shade of crimson used I feel is too light. Dare I say it's the almost exact shade of crimson used on the digital traction compound. The models also have a noticeable number of incorrect or missing details, such as the front end buffer beam, which is much bigger than it is actually in reality, and the absent tablet catcher fitted to the tender. The only thing present is the mounting point for the apparatus. Now, in fairness, both of the preserved 7Fs have had their tablet catchers removed, so for number 8 and 9 this is accurate, but the fact that it's absent across all other variations is glaring to say the least. The LMS liveries also have the wrong shed code, as they all share the 82F shed plates with the BR variants. Again, accurate for the latter, but not for these. The Prussian Blue version of number 88 also has this issue, by virtue of the fact it didn't even have a shed plate in this guise. There also appears to be a bug with the shadows. Sometimes shadows will disappear when you're looking at the engine up close, only for them to reappear again at a distance. To be fair, this issue isn't exclusive to the 7F, as older Victory Works products also seem to have this issue. Plus, this only seems to happen sporadically. But the biggest issue I have with this pack are some of the backwards key controls, more specifically, the brakes. Now, typically the brakes in Train Simulator are controlled via the apostrophe and semicolon keys to apply and release them respectively. On the 7F, however, the controls are reversed, so now semicolon is to apply the brakes and apostrophe is to release them.
Why?
Seriously, what was the point of this? Well, according to 4th himself, the keys were swapped to match the direction of the brake lever in the cab. Makes sense on paper, but in practice it just fucks with your muscle memory. Now, in fairness, and with the benefit of hindsight, this can be overcome with practice, but I still don't understand why this arrangement was adopted. It's just unnecessary, especially when few other locos in Train Sim follow this trend. All it does is just cause confusion for players who are used to driving with the keyboard, not least catching them out and potentially leading them to crash their train. Heck, during recording for this review, I had several instances where I tried to apply the brakes to either slow down or stop, only for nothing to happen. I can understand the choice to switch the controls if the model had been made for his personal use, but alas, that is not the case here. Therefore, it would have been logical to adhere to a control setup that is pretty much universal among most other locos on the market. With all this in mind, this raises the all-important question. How does 4th's version of the 7F hold up against the rendition by Caledonia Works? And ultimately, which version of the 7F would I recommend, and which one I prefer? Now, this part of the video I originally wasn't going to do, but considering during filming the new Somerset and Dorset route has just come out, I thought this would be a good time as ever to address the proverbial elephant in the room. Now just for reference, the 7F on the left is the one included with the newly released Somerset and Dorset route by Golden Age Developments. Although you only get one variant, there is little difference between this and the full 7F pack available on CW's website, with this essentially acting as a teaser. First off, the CW model unquestionably looks better, being modelled far more accurately than 4th's version. Also, while not having the same level of customization as the 4th version, having only changeable shed codes in this instance, the CW model still offers the right-hand drive versions, and other details like the different safety valves and whatnot are still present, being tied to specific variants in this case. It's also a lot easier and straightforward to drive, as by holding down Ctrl A, you can toggle between simple and advanced modes. Either way, of course, it remains a very potent machine, but as far as I'm concerned, that's where the positives for this model end. Now first and foremost, I could not give two hoots about an advanced mode since, and I will admit, I am not the most skilled driver, plus I can find having a lot to do too much for my brain to handle, so having a simple driving mode is more than ample for me personally. All the same, others may be turned off by the lack of complexity or challenge this model offers, since it drives just about the same as all other locos available in CW's catalogue. Also, the CW7F does feel to be lacking in content. While a much more varied selection of freight wagons are included, you get no coaches of any sort, and while you still do get the small and large boiler 7Fs, they only come in 3 variations of
plain, simple, black.
Not a drop of Prussian blue, Works grey or any other colour for that matter to be had. Okay, a lot of locos are painted black and nothing else, and to CW's credit, they have at least included the Gill Sands and early crest variations for the BR livery. Now, I am aware the reason CW did not include any Prez variants is because of a mutual agreement he had between himself and 4th. But I do still feel having at least number 88 in Prussian blue would have been nice, and to help compensate for the little variety this pack offers in the livery department, if I dare say so myself. The other thing to note about the CW7F is the sounds, which are kind of lazily recycled from their Midland 4F pack. And remember what I said about the CW model being modelled more authentically? Well, I think it's more accurate to say it's more authentically proportioned. By that I mean, it too has some strange omissions, chief among them being the missing builder's plates. So, with all that out there to consider, which would I recommend? Honestly, that's a hard one to answer, because it's ultimately going to come down to what the consumer is after. A 7F that looks great, is easy to drive, has inferior sounds, a wide array of wagons but no coaches, and essentially one livery. Or a 7F with an inferior model, more accurate sounds, a decent selection of rolling stock spread across wagons and coaches, and more liveries. See, the thing with both packs is that the 4th version feels more like a Preservation era pack, while the CW version is more like a Working Days era pack, if you get what I mean. So they both don't feel complete without the other, which again may have been the idea based on the mutual agreement between both devs that I alluded to earlier, but it's not helped by the fact that both iterations feel very inconsistent in their own ways, not least with each other. Because as one, they seem like a jigsaw puzzle that barely fits together, and even then doesn't look right because some individual pieces don't look right or are missing altogether. Now, I'm not saying they are completely, absolutely terrible. Far from it. Otherwise I would have never bought at least one of them. But the inconsistent and at times inaccurate modelling and varying variety of content does make each pack feel underwhelming to a certain degree. In the final accounting, however, I'd say simply stick with the original Kuju 7F. In conclusion, in spite of its flaws, I still prefer 4th's 7F pack. While I may not be too big on train sim's advanced engines in general, the locos strike a good balance between straightforward and easy to operate without being too complicated for me, yet not holding your hand too much and still offering up its own unique quirks that make them challenging to drive. And all in all, I have most certainly been enjoying driving these, no less while filming for this review. And while the extra liveries may not be everyone's cup of tea, they are still whimsically fun additions all the same. That said, I do acknowledge the model's finish does leave a lot to be desired, and some of the controls do also hold it back, thereby compromising the driving experience somewhat. So I hope that with 4th's next venture, greater care is taken when researching the prototype, and thereby making sure the model was more accurate. Also adopting a control scheme that caters to what most players are comfortable or accustomed to would be great. Nonetheless, I am curious to see what 4th's does next, and likewise hope he continues to improve given the potential he has already demonstrated in his earlier endeavours. Well, that about wraps up this video. Thank you all for watching. First time doing a review of any sort for me, so this has been a new experience for me. Plus there's been a whole lot of discussion around the 7F, so I thought it would make it the prime subject for a first attempt at reviewing something. That said, making this video has taken a bit longer for me than I would have liked, as it's taken me an eternity just to get my thoughts in order and write down everything I wanted to say about this. But on that note, I hope you have a good day or good night, depending on where you are in the world, and see you next time.